Network issue, I think, and
Could be. Yeah. Good to see all of you. Yeah.
yeah, it's very long. We are meeting through virtual platform first time, no?
Right. Okay. So since we are already late,
Yes.
we can quickly start it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very warm welcome to our eminent guest of the day three, session one, Dr. Anindita Sahu, and I welcome all the participants for the day three of the AgriWeek. And we are extremely sorry to begin 10 minutes late of the session one. Okay, let me introduce Dr. Anindita ma'am. Dr. Anandita Sahu is an assistant professor at IIT Madras. Dr. Sahu is an assistant professor at the Department of Humanities and Social Science at IIT Madras. She obtained her PhD in linguistics from the Indian Institute of Technology, India. She did her PhD thesis and her topic is analyzes passive constructions in selected South Asian languages. Her primary research interests are in linguistic typology, syntax and pragmatics. Her recent work focuses on the typology, grammaticalization of voice and copular constructions. I welcome you, ma'am. Please share the session.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and to connect with all of you, even if the meeting is virtual. Had it been a regular day, maybe we could have met together in person and then probably would have talked about the research interests and then what are your responsibilities as a faculty, basically, a teaching faculty in that sense. The introduction says that I'm a linguist, and thank you for that. Just to reiterate um, the claim of being a linguist, my focus is going to be on languages, and especially the communication aspect of language. I'm going to deal with. Um, Before I begin with my lecture, there is a small disclaimer here. Teaching learning process or method, this is an extremely dynamic this is extremely dynamic, that's what I would say. It varies from person to person, and we all grow with experiences. When you start your career as a faculty, there are different kinds of challenges, and gradually when you move on, the challenges remain same. It's just that the nature or the type or the category of challenge that becomes different. But you, being a teacher, you are always sort of facing challenges in terms of the teaching learning process is concerned. So as far as my research area, that has been already said in the introduction, that I work in languages. I'm a linguist. So pedagogy or teaching learning method, process, dynamics, that's not really my core research. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a kind of experience sharing with all of you, my experience as a teacher, and what sort of challenges have I faced, and then how I'm working on it during this very difficult pandemic, that like a difficult time because of the pandemic that we all are going through. And since my session is on blended learning, also it's association, or how to incorporate, or how to add the teaching learning methods related to the futuristic learning technologies. So suggest it's going to be my is going to be on the blended learning method, and my insights are purely experience driven. That is precisely what I wanted to clarify before I formally start the lecture. Okay, so I need to share my screen. Okay, let me see how I'm going to do it. Okay. I don't really see the screen sharing option here in Team. Okay, so I don't know how to do it. More actions.
Ma'am, do you find any upward direction arrow sign?
Yeah, open share
Yeah,
tray.
that is
Yes,
shared.
open share tray. And then I must. But if I go there, why am I not able to see the sharing option? I did click on open share tray. Can somebody help me here?
Yes, yes. The file should be open, madam. Whatever file you want to share,
Yeah.
it should be open first.
Okay. Is my presentation like my slides are visible to all of you now?
No, you have not yet shared.
What's happening? I did open the share tray, but then after that, it should be visible now, the slides. I don't know what's wrong.
You have to select the file which you want to share.
Hello. हाँ जी मैम.
Yeah, I'm actually more familiar with.
Yes, I know Zoom and all. Ma'am, you can see that arrow.
Yeah, I
on the
did
upper-
get it. Yeah,
Okay. So is it PPT?
it's a PPT. Should I
So
send
just
it to
send
you?
me. I'll share from my end. You just send me.
Okay.
You need to. On my email ID or Rekha ma'am's email ID. If you have, you must be having Rekha ma'am's email ID.
Yes.
Rekha dr.rekha.
Yeah, I have her email ID.
Yeah. Please send it, ma'am. There.
कौन सा वाला मैम की सुनीतू तेरे ये सारिका मैम का है ना
ये सारिका ma'am.
Yeah, I just sent it. If it's embarrassing actually when we're talking about the futuristic technologies. Yeah, you know, the share tray doesn't seem to access my files in the system. There is some problem with team in my end probably. Yeah, I did send the slides. If you could share it from your Rekha,
Yeah.
I sent it to you.
Did you send it on dia.rekha email? उधर खोल देना इधर खोलना
I did send it
Anandita ma'am, did you send?
gmail.com, dr.rekha.
Okay. Yes, I received. Ma'am.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Are we there?
yes ma'am
Yeah, okay. So in the meanwhile, while she's sort of trying to share it, let me just begin with the quote that always appeals me as a teacher. It says, "Who dares to teach must never cease to learn." So teaching and learning, that's a process which like they go on together hand in hand. uh, when you are a teacher, you also must be a learner. The moment you cease your learning desires, it's going to be problem for a teacher, right? So never think that just by being a teacher your learning ceases or your learning stops. That doesn't really happen in this way. So please remember, to begin with, that is what I have written in the next slide. If we can go to the next slide quickly. So it's a quote by John Cotton Dana. So please don't ever cease the desire to learn, or don't stop the desire to learn. So if you want to be really a good teacher, make sure that you learn things. And considering the given situation, the pandemic that we are all in most of the institutes, the teaching learning process has become a little tiring, tedious for the teaching fraternity, for our colleagues out there. But nevertheless, the concern here is that we have to learn, you have to evolve, and we have to move on. Okay, so with this note, or with this quote, I would like to move on to the outline of my talk. I'm going to talk about what are the objectives that I have for this presentation, and following the objectives, I'll talk about how to understand blended learning. That has been my area, not say expertise, but my experience. I do deploy or implement a lot of blending or a lot of blended learning techniques in my teaching. So I'm going to talk about what I understand blended learning and whether I can make it palatable to my audience out there. Considering this is a faculty development program, I assume and I understand most of us are colleagues here. So you are engaged in the teaching learning process, or you are a teacher in some way or the other. It could be engineering or humanities or management, or it could be sciences. Whatever discipline that you are engaged in, I'm sure the blended learning techniques are going to be useful for all of you. I would primarily focus on the communicative aspect of it, because the talk is organized by the humanities professors to highlight or to enhance the aspects of communicative skills of the learners. However, if you do not even come from the humanities background, I'm sure the talk, like the tips and then the suggestions that I have got to share, are going to be useful to all of you. Then after I explain or I describe what is blended learning, I'm going to go to talk about how to use the futuristic technologies. A couple of tips I have. I don't really use all of them, but I'll talk about how I manage my classes, and then the rest I have gathered it from various sources, from my colleagues, and referring to the online sharing system. And after that, I'm going to talk about very briefly how the blended learning affects the social fabric, or how the social interaction is going to be important, whatever teaching technique that you deploy, whether it is blended or it is traditional. So how important it is for us to understand the social interaction process that is a part of the teaching learning initiatives. And finally, I would conclude. So that's how the outline of the talk looks like. I would be very happy if I get the questions in between, though this is for like an hour and a half conversation. But make sure if you have any problem, or if you have any concern, then make sure that you ask the questions even during the presentation. I wouldn't mind answering to them. Let's not make it a one-way process. Rather, we will try to make it as interactive as possible, because that is how the being a faculty we are going to face during the online teaching learning processes that we are involved in. Okay, so that's about the outline of the talk. So let's move to the objectives. Feel free to stop me and to ask me questions if you have any. So if you see, there is this red and then the blue thing. The red thing is the generic objective of the faculty development program that is organized here. The organizer's objective is that to facilitate the participants from different disciplines to develop an in-depth comprehension of communication skills as well as life skill management through English language. So I tried to develop my lecture material, keeping in mind this is the generic objective of the faculty development program here. So my focus is not going to be on life skill management, rather it's going to be on the communicative skills or the communicative component of it. I'm going to talk about as a teacher, how it is important for you to be a good communicator. And then obviously, what are the traits of a good teacher? All of these, you know about it. So so considering this is the third day of the program, I'm sure you must have had enough insights about other things, the very generic qualities of a teacher, and then the responsibilities of a teacher, what sort of duties you need to perform. So all these things, I'm not really going to focus more on that, but my focus is going to be to talk about in detail what are the futuristic technologies that you may deploy to make your teaching learning process more interesting and then more interactive. Okay, so then the blue points are my objectives. So the first objective that I have is to provide knowledge and skills for teachers to cater to the present day learning needs. So when I say present day learning needs, my focus is that it is what is the present day? What do you mean by when I say quote unquote present day. Obviously, it's a difficult situation for all of us. Pandemic has hit everyone hard, and then almost like the world is affected. And if you look at the teaching area, or if you look at the teaching communities, we all are toiling, we all are struggling hard by deploying the like kind of as flexible or as dynamic teaching methods as possible. And it has not been an easy job to tell you, and I'm sure all of you would share that experience with me, and then you would agree with me that it has never been an easy job ever since we are onto the online teaching mode. So that's the reason why we need to understand what do we mean by the present day learning needs. And then the second one, I'm going to explore various aspects of blended learning, and then I would briefly talk about what are the opportunities that it provides, and then along with all the opportunities, it also has challenges, and how to address the challenges. I would just share my experience, my story, but eventually you have to deal with own, because as I mentioned, the talk problem, the nature of this problem, it varies from person to person. The kind of problems that I'm facing may not be the same that you face, but for sure, we all would share some generic problems, like how to manage the classrooms with so much of dependency on tech, with so much of with so much of changing situation that we are in. Sometimes we have the tech problem. Sometimes we have the students who are not at all interested to participate in the online discussions. And then the most I wouldn't use the word irritating, but the most difficult problem that I find, to have a classroom with the virtual presence. So all these so for example, my 8 o'clock class in the morning would have, let's say, in each of my classes I have, let's say, 25 students, but just the mics would, sorry, just the icons would be on, that okay, 25 students are there in the like through this virtual platform, but I really don't know how many of them are really present. Or people could simply log in, and they would keep the video off, they would keep the mic off, and then they would do like whatever work they're doing. Or, and when I say work, it could be their daily work, and maybe some people would just be there in the bed and then absolutely not in a mood to study. But then what to do? That is how the challenges are for the moment. So not having the real people in the on using the marker or the chalk or whatever you have, and then not really communicating with the participants in person, is a huge challenge for me. And I'm sure this challenge all of us are facing it, just not me. These kind of impersonification, I would say. So they are the humans, but then these are the virtual humans in that sense. So that's, we do miss those regular classroom teaching days, where you can actually get a first-hand information what sort of interaction do you have with the students, and whether they are whether they are listening to you or not. So hearing and listening, the communication experts would being communication experts, we know what is the difference. So sometimes even in the classroom there are disinterested children or disinterested participants who just doesn't like, who don't give any attention to what you're saying, but at least you know that they are present, even if they're not listening, but at least they're hearing. But in this case, you even don't know whether they're hearing or not. Everything is on mute. So that's a challenge most of the teaching fraternity is facing during the online classes. How to overcome these challenges? A couple of tips I have. But then again, it is entirely up to you what kind of challenges you have and how to address, and whether my insights are going to be helpful for you or not. So these are the three primary objectives, or three major objectives that I have: to provide knowledge and skills for teachers, to explore different aspects of blended learning, and eventually I'll talk about the challenges and the opportunities that it has. Okay, so now to begin with, my objective related to language. Since I'm a linguist, I do read, or I do talk about the basic principles of language whenever I discuss communication related issues. remember, we are talking about human language. And when I say human language, this is, we are the only species on this earth who use language. You may say that, okay, dogs can also understand what, like if you have a pet, then obviously when you say go fetch the ball, or then run or sit or eat, so these kind of tiny phrases, sometimes the dogs they do comprehend, it seems. But then remember, that's not really, the dog doesn't really understand human language. It's just a set of instructions which have kind of been tailor-made for him, and then, or her, or it, whatever. So in that sense, a human language is extremely diverse. So my focus is going to be on the human language, and then that's the reason why Chomsky would say this is human essence. You are the only species on the earth that communicates using a language. So please make sure that whatever discussion I have, or I will have in this next 45-50 minutes, the essence is humane, and then I'm going to talk about human language in general. So I'm going to talk about how to incorporate the essence of human language into your teaching, learning, pedagogy process. Okay, so that's what Chomsky would say in Language and Mind. When we study human language, we are approaching what some might call the human essence, the distinctive qualities of mind that we are, so far as we know, that is unique to man. So be happy that you are a human, and just by being a human, you are the only species that can use the language. And let's see how this understanding is going to help us in deploying the futuristic technologies that we have, especially in the communicative skills classroom. And communicative skills, when I say, I'm also including participants from different disciplines, because even if you are teaching engineering subjects or science subjects, the crux of the story is that you are communicating something, and the learners, they must understand what you are saying. So that's not really a speaking or that's not really interview skills kind of thing that I'm discussing when I deal with the science or technology subjects. But the basic component remains same, is that the teacher and then the learner, or the instructor and then the learner, they have to communicate. And this communication has been facilitated in a very dynamic manner, or a dynamic fashion, over the period of time, by deploying the futuristic technologies that we have through the blended learning method. Okay, so another interesting quote by Norbert Homstead: fish swim, birds fly, and people talk. So since we are humans and we talk, and we are going to talk about, I'm going to talk about how, what sort of teaching learning processes that you need to understand to approach the blended learning methods. Okay, and then Fromkin, those who are familiar with this work, the possession of language, perhaps more than any other attribute, distinguishes humans from other animals. So remember, humans are creative, and within all the humans, teachers are even more creative. And all of us being teachers, by default, we are creative people. And when I say creative, I'm not talking about only writing fiction or a poetry or stuff like that. It could not be a literary piece of writing. You can also bring in creativity through your teaching. You can also bring in creativity the way you communicate with your learners, or like with your students. So creativity is not restricted only to the only to the literary aspect of it, but we can be creative in general, the way we communicate. So when you talk to somebody, if just by your words you are able to motivate a student to do better in life, then also you are, not every teacher motivates their students. So I'll end my presentation with that quote later, but remember that. So be creative, and then whether you are implementing, may I go to the next slide? I don't know what is, okay, are the slides visible to all of you now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So can we go to the next slide now to understand what is blended learning? I assume that all of us are creative, and I assume that even if you think you are creative enough, there hasn't been any upper limit. You should aspire to be more creative until you teach. I think being a teacher, we like once a teacher, you are always a teacher. So do not like your spirit or your desire to be creative, to learn more, should never be seized, no matter what the situation might be. So this technology should not be daunting to you, or the technological use in your classroom should not be you should not be frightened of it. You shouldn't think it as a as a restriction. Rather, you should always think about how to deploy the futuristic technologies to make sure that you as a teacher is more creative, which is why your classes would be more interactive and more interesting for the students who have kind of who have chosen you as a teacher, right? So keeping that in mind, let's try to understand what is blended learning. No matter how much we talk about the traditional chalk and duster, or if it's a little more advanced now, so the maybe the marker and the whiteboard kind of a teaching that we miss. I do miss that too. And fortunately, I'm working with a privileged institute. It's one of the most prestigious institutes in the country. So we have a lot of facilities and we have a lot of privileges. But at the same time, we also, like, when I say facilities, I'm talking about the technological facilities that IIT Madras gives us in terms like to help us in enhancing our teaching skills. But I do miss the regular classrooms, looking at the faces of the students, and then some smiling, some grumpy, some disinterested, some indifferent. That doesn't really matter to me, as long as I see my students sitting in my class and I do scribble on the board and I write it out and I write more examples. I do miss all of these traditional methods quite a lot. However, given the current situation, we have to focus on the blended learning method. So when I say blended learning, this is just a blend or a mix between the e-learning and then the traditional classroom teaching. E-learning has been difficult, as I have mentioned, to most of us. We do hear and we read stories, and then we read articles, memes, cartoons, whatnot, in the social media, regular media, how it has taken a toll on the teachers and then the students alike. So not only the students face the challenges, or not only the students become restless because of they feel that the assignments are just getting piled up and then they are not keeping pace with the teaching. At the same time, the teachers are equally challenged in that sense. So they are also the kind of challenges that we face is no less than the kind of that the learners or the students face it. So then what should we do? What should we look for? What should we aim at? We should aim at a blend between the e-learning and then the traditional classroom teaching. And that blend, that mix must be it must be ideal. And what is ideal? That's also a question. How much of blended learning we should aim at in the days to come? That's a question. But still, I would leave it up to you to figure out how much you can do post-pandemic situation. Like when we go back to the traditional classroom teaching, now we are full on online. Once the pandemic, I hope the pandemic ends soon, and then we get the vaccine and world comes back to normalcy as quickly as possible. But then I'm sure things will be better for the days to come. When we go back to the traditional or the conventional teaching method, now it is completely online, then it will be completely traditional. So my suggestion would be to have a blend of it, to have a combination of insights or combination of things from both the worlds. So that would probably be the most ideal kind of situation in case of teaching learning method. So that is what we will try to find out. What kind of blend do we need? What sort of combination do we need to call it a blended learning method? Remember, online teaching is definitely is happening, and then we all are using it as much as possible. But it can never be an alternative to the traditional method. So since it cannot be an alternative, we have to come up with a blending method. We have to come up with a mix and match or the combination kind of method. So what are the combination methods that we need to understand? All right. So then what are the opportunities that we have in case of the blended learning method? One of the primary thing, or one of the most important thing that blended learning approach helps the learners is that you get the access to global resources. So the world has become a small village now. So I know you just it's been a free world, right? As far as the knowledge sharing and the knowledge interaction or the knowledge consumption is concerned. So you can consume any amount of knowledge just by a mouse click, right? A lot of MOOCs are available. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the MOOCs. May I get some response? You know what is MOOC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Massive
So this,
online.
yeah, the massive online courses, and also Indian government has this very like this wonderful initiative that is Swayam. Through that we have the NPTEL lectures. A lot of my colleagues, they have NPTEL lectures. I also have one. So through these online courses or the NPTEL or MOOCs that we talk about, you actually have an opportunity to access resources globally. You're not just restricted to your faculty or to your library, or for that matter to your institute. Just by the click of a mouse, you're going to access any amount of information available. I agree that not all universities or institutes are equally privileged as ours, because we do have a very good, like a very strong library that has an access to almost all the good journals in the world, be it humanities, sciences, technology. We do have, or management. In all the cases, we have the best facility in terms of accessing the global resources. Not all institutes are equally privileged. I'm familiar with that, and I know this is a challenge for my colleagues who are working with institutes which or universities which do not have enough resources. Not only the colleagues but also the students over there. So, but my concern here is that even if certain journals or certain resources are paid, there are way more resources which are available freely, and all these open open platforms, and there are quite a few journals, very good journals actually, and very good knowledge repository or the knowledge centric resources which are available free, and then you just need to know what those are and how to exploit, if I can use the word exploit, how to exploit that information so that you can actually accumulate as many global resources as possible. So don't be just restricted. Being a faculty, we must learn. That is what I said in the very beginning. If you want to be a good teacher, be a good learner. And to be a good learner, do not restrict yourself only the local knowledge. Rather, try to gather as much of information as possible. Globally. Don't be local centric. So this be local thing is a different idea in terms of the manufacturing and other stuff to make the country self-dependent. But then as far as the knowledge sharing is concerned, or the knowledge accessing is concerned, make sure you get the best possible resources available globally. And if you have an access to the paid ones, if you are working with a university or an institute which has access to the best journals in your area, do go for it. Otherwise, also there are a lot of free resources which you can empower yourself with. So that's one way by which I can say that blended learning has become extremely important, not only for the teachers but also for the learners. It's just not the teachers who have access to the global resources. It's also the students who have access to the global resources too. So no matter whether you are a student or you are a teacher, learning is beneficial for both of you. So for a teacher, yes, it would increase or it would help you to be better teachers. And as a student, for sure, you are going to consume more knowledge. You are going to consume more information, which is why your performance is going to be better. So that's the first thing that you need to keep in mind when I talk about the blended learning. It does give you an opportunity to have access to global resources. Then the second one. What is the second advantage or the second opportunity? Blended learning, the research says that it has been proven a fact that the students, they remain focused for longer period of time while engaged in learning activities. this could be slightly controversial. You might say, how do you know whether they are focused or not? Because you don't really see their faces on the screen most of the time. The videos would be off, and then you really don't know what they're doing. But one thing is for sure, when if you have if you are like if you have a student who is who is an inquisitive learner, then it has always been proven that through the blended learning, when you put both the worlds together, when you put e-learning and the traditional classroom teaching method together, the student seems to be focused more than he or she used to be during the traditional method. And why during the traditional method it's a problem? Because for most of the students, the classroom becomes an extremely monotonous place, because those who are familiar with basics of language teaching and learning, we have various kinds of learners. We have visual learners, we have learners who learn through audio or through the auditory techniques, and then we also have learners who learn by reading, and some others who learn through the classroom. Considering different kinds of learners have different needs, classroom teaching or the traditional method of classroom teaching sometimes become monotonous for people who learn through visual medium, or who learn through the let's say by reading stuff on their own. So since the classroom is a mixed bag, and you don't really have one category or one kind of learner in this heterogeneous group, or it's a mixed bag, as I mentioned. So sometimes what happens, students, they remain more focused because they don't really have to consume knowledge sharing or the knowledge that has been shared by the teacher or by the instructor in the monotonous traditional process. So that's the reason why when you have the ideal mix of both the worlds, then it is claimed that you are going to be be assured that if not all, a lot of students would be more focused, right? So that's the second opportunity that I think the blended learning method would help you with. And then the third one is the peer group activities. All of you would agree with me that it's the peer group that helps you to learn more than the classroom. Sometimes what happens, the kind of learners that I discussed, the ones who do not fit into the traditional conventional, those who are learning through the conventional teaching method, even if they also include, you learn a lot, like the learners, they do learn a lot through their peer. So when the instructor enables them, enables them means the participants, to have an access with their peer group, who are not just in their own institute or university, rather they are there globally. So the global peer group is going to be a very important factor, which would enhance their learning skills, and which would definitely motivate them to perform better, to be at par with their peer globally. So for sure they can be connected with their peer through the futuristic technologies. We have multiple platforms. We have all these futuristic technologies like AR, VR. So the artificial intelligence we have, and then the virtual reality, augmented reality. Then we also hear a lot about the 3D. All these are also, there is an emerging technology that can be deployed in education sector, that is the blockchain. So my science colleagues and my technology colleagues would vouch for it. So we have all these, and in linguistics we do talk about artificial intelligence a lot, and also the natural language processing, NLP. So these are the upcoming technologies which can be used to enhance the teaching learning experience of the participants in your classroom. So I'm not going to go into details of these technologies. So those who are interested, you can always search for it later. But these are just a few terms that you should look for if you want to understand the futuristic technologies that can be deployed in education sector. Okay, and then obviously the fourth point I have already discussed. When you deploy the blended learning techniques, you are just not restricting yourself to the classroom only approaches. Rather, you're opening up the avenue for your learners, for your students, for the participants of your class. You are actually giving them a wider like a broader, bigger opportunity, which will help them to perform better in the days to come. The academic career that they aim at, or they look forward to, is going to be brighter for sure when you try to deploy the approaches or the insights or the tools from both the worlds. So my stand here is that I do support blended learning, because completely online process, I'm not fully convinced with that, because there are a couple of challenges I have already discussed, and I'm sure some of you would agree with me this. But also the conventional, traditional chalk and duster, or wiper, or like the whiteboard and then the marker, sometimes it becomes extremely monotonous for the group. So what, as a teacher, what I should do, or what I aim at, is that to keep both the worlds together, to get insights from both the worlds, so that it's going to be quote unquote the most ideal kind of a teaching pedagogy that I like, the ideal kind of teaching method that I would like to follow. Again, it's entirely up to you, as I have already made the disclaimer. These are just the experience sharing things, and which I think my faculty colleagues are going to find it useful. Okay, so that's about blended learning. And may we go to the next slide, please? So what are the opportunities that you have? I have already, like, broadly, I have discussed all of these. So it does give you flexibility in teaching learning approaches. You can, as I mentioned, you being a teacher or being the instructor, you are the one who is going to bring in the best elements or the best tools or the best insights from both the approaches and put it together. It'll be extremely flexible. You can teach through the videos. You can send them the YouTube links, and you can set the open book exams to test the creative thinking and then the problem solving skills of the students. So it will give you a lot of flexibility as a teacher, and it will also give a lot of flexibility to the learners, so that they would not find it kind of monotonous, or they would not kind of find it mundane to sort of to go through the similar kind of process over and over again all the time. Okay, so should I kind of take a break? Do I have some questions here until now?
Participants, yeah.
Or I would take it up at the end if there is any question.
Ma'am, we can take the at the end of the session.
Okay, all right. However, if you have any question, please make sure to speak up. No problem, absolutely no problem. Otherwise, it becomes a monologue, which I'm not really very kind of, I don't support it a lot. So monologues are okay for different kinds of systems, but for a faculty development program, if you have any question, please let me know. Feel free to stop me, and then I would be happy to engage with all of you through a discussion. Okay, so most welcome. That's what I wanted.
All the participants, if you have any query, any question, you can write in chat box.
Okay, so I don't see the chat box. Where is the chat?
Yeah, ma'am. We do not have any.
Okay, all right. Anyway, so let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So one of the opportunity that blended learning technique provides is flexibility. Then it also empowers the teachers, or it gives you scope to deploy your creative instincts or your creative abilities. As I mentioned, you are not restricted. You're not limited only to the writing and scribbling method. Even if, no matter how much you love that, it's always good to get something extra. So obviously, it is more empowering for all of us if we want to deploy other techniques. And learners can be easily engaged through various. I'll tell you how what are the things that I do in my class, and then what are some of my other colleagues that do it. So you can always go for that. So there are methods which would help you to keep the learners engaged for a longer period of time. And it also enables, like the blended learning, one of the opportunities is that it enables to incorporate the tailor-made teaching learning techniques. So when I say tailor-made, as I mentioned, your learners are a mixed bag. They are the heterogeneous group, and all of them don't have similar kind of needs. Some of them would be visual learners, some of them would be auditory ones. So keeping that in mind, considering each of them would have a different need, so you can actually cater to the needs of individual learner as much as possible. I wouldn't be I don't want to say anything which is not practical. I am saying it's not possible to cater to the needs of all the learners, especially those who are disinterested, indifferent. You can't do anything to them. So it has to be motivating for them. All that you can do, you can try to motivate them, but that doesn't mean that you can actually there's this very famous saying, right? You can drag the horse to the pond, but you can't really make it drink. So they have to drink. And also there is another very common example that I give in most of my classes for the disinterested, passive, indifferent learners. Is that it's like gymming, right? So if you want to lose weight, you have to do the exercise. I can tell you, okay, these are a couple of places where you can go for gymming and for exercise and stuff like that. But eventually, you have to struggle. You have to go through that process. So I understand as an instructor, as a teacher, it's extremely difficult to sort of. I try my best to pull in the passive, and sometimes I have become successful, but most of the time I fail. There's no problem. I don't have any hesitation to say that here. But I never stop trying. So that is what we should do. No matter how tough nut a student could be to crack, in terms of igniting the interest in him or her to pay attention to your subject, to your course, but then you should always try. So never stop trying, never stop learning. That's what I would just reiterate time and again. So blended learning would help you to incorporate the tailor-made teaching learning techniques that which you may not get during a traditional or a conventional teaching learning session. In the classroom teaching learning session, it may not be that feasible, that flexible, but during the blended learning, it does work. Okay. All right. So the next one, let's look at the challenges. I have been talking about opportunities and then the positive things all the time, but it's not that easy as I have mentioned. It has its own challenges. It has its own restrictions. So let's see what are these. One of the first thing is that too much of dependence on technology. Just like we saw in the morning, this team platform, it worked pretty well when I attended the inaugural, but something just went wrong today, and then we had a couple of minutes, like it got delayed. So had it been a regular conference session, it's okay. Like I would just, being a speaker, I would be on time. Physically, I need to be present no matter how many participants are present. Doesn't really affect me much, doesn't really affect the schedule of the time. So that's okay. I could simply go and then talk about, I could simply do my job. So when you are too dependent on the technology, that becomes a problem. There would be glitches, as I've mentioned in the third point. So the technical glitches are there, and India as a country, it hasn't been that tech efficient. Some of our faculty, they are untrained or semi-trained. Unless you are fully trained, it's going to be slightly difficult, or not slightly, quite a bit of difficulty. A lot of our faculty colleagues face those who are not much equipped with the technical things. Fortunately, my generation, most of us are well versed, but still we do face challenges time and again. So the second very big challenge is that the teaching fraternity or the teaching colleagues that we have here, either they're untrained or semi-trained. So obviously that creates a problem. You lose time. It also doesn't look good to begin your talk with, or to begin your day with. Let's say you are all set, all ready to take the lecture at 9, and then the students are waiting at the virtual platform, but you're not really able to start the class because of all these glitches and all this unpreparedness. Or you can say the inefficiency of the technology that you are dealing with. So then this is not a very happy thing, and we don't really, none of us would be happy to know about it, or to go through that. Not to know, to go through that experience. So that's the second challenge that blended learning would have. Also, the technical glitches I've talked about, insufficient tech support and lack of tech efficiency. Not all of us are well equipped with with the technological support that we need. For example, a Jamboard. How many of us are actually using a Jamboard? And how many of us actually know how to use a Jamboard? So that's the tech support is not enough. I would share one of my personal story. I teach syntax in my classes, and syntax, those who know a bit of linguistics, syntax involves a lot of tree diagrams. And I love to scribble it on the basic syntax. It's a basic linguistics course that I teach in IIT Madras. So some of my students are BTech. They choose this course as an elective. So I do draw a lot of trees, simple trees. I kicked, let's say, the bucket. I didn't. Or I can say I ate mangoes in the morning, or the boy is playing football. So these kind of simple trees, when I draw on the board, I like scribbling, right? So that scribbling option, I was kind of handicapped because it was online, and then initially, during the initial days of teaching, I wasn't much familiar with the Jamboard, and obviously I would require a device which will enable me to write things. So all the challenges, they were there. Gradually we did overcome, but the insufficient tech support and lack of tech efficiency does create a problem when you try to adapt the blended learning or the online methods of teaching. But in case of blended learning, what you can say, maybe you are there in the traditional classroom, and then you are also asking them to refer to certain study materials available online. So that will be the best possible option that I would have in hand. The students have internet access, the students have their devices, and at the same time, I have my freedom, my flexibility to refer to online as well as the board. So that would be the best possible option that I would go for. And then some people, they have unchanged traditional mindset. So that becomes a hindrance when you try to attempt blended learning techniques or methods. So if you are rigid, and if you don't want to change yourself for the better, then it's going to be a problem for as an instructor. So as a faculty, you should always be open to changes, and not all changes are good, but most of the changes are good, I would say. So at least accept the ones which are good for teaching. So blended learning for sure, because it's a combination of both the worlds. This is a good approach to take your creativity to the next level in terms of teaching. And the very important problem that a blended learning method poses is the difficulty in managing and assessing learner progress. You must have gone through a lot of articles recently. IIT Bombay, they cancelled the online examination. Then there was another news, if you remember, this Assamese student or doctor's child who stood first or second in the JEE Advanced, and then he plagiarized, he copied. So these challenges, we are not able to overcome those challenges yet. So we don't really have, we cannot ensure the fair method of examination unless you have very strong technical support. But going by IIT Bombay's story, I really don't know how efficient would things be in the days to come. So that's one difficulty that we face. But otherwise, also we have sometimes we fail to manage and to assess how the learner is progressing. One thing is that you are teaching, but the other thing is that to assess whether they received what you taught or not. The communication faculty here, we all are familiar with that cyclic fashion. Communication is a cycle. So you have a sender, you have a receiver, then the sender gets back the feedback, and the sender encodes the message, the receiver decodes the message. So you encoded what you wanted to say, you passed it on, it reached the receiver decoded it. But the decoding and then the encoding, whether there has been a gap or not, we are not sure. So sometimes what happens, we don't get the right kind of picture or the right kind of information, whether the learners have got the right information or not. The feedback doesn't come back to us as it comes back during the traditional method of teaching. So that is why it's difficult to measure or to keep a track of the assessment of the learning progress. That still remains a challenge. With blended learning also, it's still going to be a challenge, but gradually we can overcome. Probably the more we think about it, the more we talk about it, the more we research, so things are going to be better. And there are certain strategies which are unverified and misdirected. If the instructor uses that, then it's going to, instead of doing good to the learners, it's going to be bad for them. At least it has been proven, it has been tried and tested. It's been there for such a long period of time, almost like the time eternity, starting from the Gurukul system. If I talk about the Indic knowledge system that we had, so we always have had a tried and tested method of the traditional teaching approaches. So we have come a long way, right? So starting from learning by doing through the starting from the Gurukul system to the activity centric learning that we have now, all of these methods, they have been tried and tested. So unless like when you deploy a blending learning technique, you make sure that the methods that you are deploying, they are not unverified, they are not misdirected. If that happens, then the whole the goals and objectives of blended learning, that goes into a toss. Okay, all right, I'm sorry. So then you have the most important thing. This is what I'll talk about towards the end. I'm almost reaching the end probably, but then no, not quite a few things. So social interaction is very important, which the blended learning may not give in most of the cases, especially when you give the students the option of doing things online. It could be, so purely online things are alienating them from being or from communicating with their peer group in most of the cases, because it's all virtual, and then you don't really know how they are going to communicate or how they are going to interact with their peer group. So you have to make sure that whatever method you are deploying, it should not completely exclude the social interaction system that it has. So purely online thing is a problem, but when you bring it the blended learning, make sure you have enough scope to ensure that the learners, they are interacting with their peer group socially. So getting connected with their global peer is one thing. When you are connected with your global peer, you don't know the person, maybe you don't know him or her personally. So but in case of the traditional classroom teaching method, you know who your peer group is. So make sure when you put it in the blended learning method, you are not really completely alienating the social interaction aspect of it. So then it would be the right method. Okay, all right. So these are the challenges that the blended method will have. Then we'll move to the next slide, where I'm going to share a few tips and suggestions that you may deploy in your classroom. So the first thing is, do think about a flipped classroom. I hope some of you, or not some of you, most of you would be familiar with the term flipped. That means which is the most ideal example of blended learning. When it is flipped, that means you are you do use the online sources, like the online platform, plus you also have the teaching method, that like the traditional teaching classes that you have. So what one should do for the flipped classroom, what I do, and a lot of my colleagues also do that, we do upload. We use Moodle a lot. I don't know how many of the institutes will have access to Moodle. IITs have got the access to Moodle, so that helps us in many ways to store or to use it as a repository of informations. So what you can do, if you have a scope or an option to use Moodle, these are some useful tools I have listed. You can use the flipped classroom, Jamboard, chat-based teaching, online polls, quick MCQs you can always look for. Then use Moodle as much as you can. If you're a management faculty, do also for the communication skills, do use a lot of case studies. And no matter whatever you are teaching, whether it is science, technology, management, humanities, literature, you can always go for activity or game-based learning. So I'll go to it one by one. So Kahoot and Menti and Improve. So these are the things that some of my, I don't, for your kind information, I don't use this. I haven't used it until now, but a lot of my colleagues, they're using it very successfully in management, also engineering. So so you may, I'm thinking to deploy these maybe in the next session, but I have my own methods to make my class interactive as much as possible, but you can always use some of these. And then I'll talk about how how not so important tool like WhatsApp, which is freely available to most of us, can be used for teaching learning methods. So most of these things that that I have listed on the top of it, like above, these are, a lot of them are paid. So not all the institutes, they have access to it because they require a lot of money. So if you come from an institute where the paid services are not that frequently used, use a simple thing like WhatsApp, which is extremely popular, common, and then obviously all of us, we know how to use it. So how you can deploy, like how you can use a stupid medium, if I can say. I'll not say stupid because a lot of us, we waste a lot of time in WhatsApp and we just keep forwarding things. When I say we, that means most of us, useless things we do forward. Let's not do that, and then let's try to use WhatsApp for our teaching purpose as much as possible. Okay, so let's very quickly, how much time do I have? Can I?
Yes, ma'am, you have 20 minutes, ma'am.
20 minutes. I'll try to wind
Yes.
up in next 10 minutes, and then after that
we have the interaction. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So we are almost done. I think this is the last one because I'm just sharing some tools. So flipped classroom, do make sure that you upload videos. What I do generally, I upload 10 to 12 minutes videos. I'm talking about the pre-pandemic days. During pandemic, everything is online. Everything has been uploaded. So we have a strategy that we use Google Meet, and IIT has a paid, this is a paid platform for us where we can, just like you are recording here, so we also record the lectures. Live lectures are important, but we have been strictly instructed that no matter whether you are teaching live classroom or not, but all the recordings have to be available to the students via Moodle. So what we do, we record the lectures through Google Meet, and then we make it available to the students through Moodle. So if you have Moodle, you can use it as a repository. If you don't have Moodle, the paid version of Moodle, so then obviously you can go for the Team or Google Meet or whatever recording facility that is available. If nothing is available, then just create a WhatsApp group. So I'll go back to WhatsApp all the time. So make it a flipped classroom thing. So upload 10 to small videos before the class and let them go through it. Those who are interested, they'll go through it. Again, the passive, indifferent, and uninterested, disinterested probably, students would not pay much attention what you have uploaded. That's okay. The world has all kinds of people. That just like that, our class has all kinds of students. So don't be disheartened. Even if you have 20-membered class. I'm fortunate to have small classes. I know not all of us are equally fortunate. I used to teach with other private institutes before. The classroom size was super big. It was huge. So if you have a big classroom like 60, out of 60, if 10 students have viewed your video, your target is achieved, your objective is achieved, because you are at least helping 10 students out of 60 who are really interested to know what you're teaching. So do upload small videos and then do talk about it later when you discuss the concepts in the classroom. So some people don't feel like reading the material that you share. But if they don't want to, you remember there are tailor-made. That is the point that I had in the previous slide. So this is what tailor-made thing that I was talking about. If you upload a video through the flipped classroom, those who are not interested to read, they would at least watch, they would at least listen to it, and they would get an idea before you discuss that in the regular classroom. So keeping in mind, we have various kinds of, you share the study material, you upload a video, and the classroom has all kinds of students. Those who are reading centric, they would read the article and come back and they would participate in the discussion. Those who are not interested for reading, they would watch. The visual learners, they would watch it and come back and participate. So basically what you're doing through the flipped classroom, you are allowing, or you are giving a scope or giving an opportunity to everyone. And you cannot, as I mentioned, you can't do anything with the most disinterested student in the class, but you can always try. Maybe something would click with person A, something would click with person B, and something else would click with the person C. So keeping in mind, you can actually have your tailor-made teaching strategy that you can apply. Jamboard, again, if you have a paid version, you can use it. Otherwise, if you have access to it, please use it as much as you can. This is a very useful tool. Then the third thing is the chat-based teaching. There are quite a few apps available, online apps. There is something called Acadly. I think I should write it in the chat. I don't know. Just remember, Acadly is an app which a lot of my colleagues, science colleagues and technology colleagues are using, which is chat based. Like basically you can communicate with them in the real time when they upload something, if you want to give some feedback, if you want to give them some instruction. There are multiple apps available, freely available apps. So open source. Not everything is paid, right? So do look for the open source software and apps which are available, and do use them, exploit them to make your teaching interesting. Then you can always use the online polls where you can share it. You can have the groups, teaching groups. Again, go back to WhatsApp and then make sure that you communicate with them on a regular basis, and do use the online polls, especially for the management and communication faculty. I'm saying you can use this. And do look for you can monitor the progress also. Those who are using these apps, they would help, like that you would get an idea who actually is active in your class, who is not, who is active, who is dormant, and how to address the issues of the dormant learners. That is up to you. I would leave it up to you to find out what are the techniques that you want to deploy, all the things that I have discussed. And then Moodle, as I have told you, Moodle is something that will kind of give you a repository. That means it will help you to keep your information stored at a particular place. So that's the reason why you can, if you have a paid version of Moodle, you can always use that. Case studies, which is again a blend of both the things, online and like the regular teaching, and then the classroom and the online teaching. In both cases, you can deploy the case studies for the management faculty. Even if it's not your regular classroom, you can always discuss it through the virtual platform that you are using. Then do look for the sites like Kahoot.com, Menti.com, improv.ca. So these are the activity and game-based learning. Believe me, a lot of my technology colleagues at IIT, they are using these game and activity-based learning. Don't restrict yourself to the thought that it can only be used for the playway method for the kindergarten children. No, activity is important, and believe me, the students are going to learn better when you try to make it more game-centric, activity-centric, or interaction-centric. A monologue might not help always, unless you are actually explaining certain theoretical concepts. In that case, probably it will be a little kind of monologues are okay, because you need to explain things to them. But do try to deploy some game and activity-based approach for your teaching, which will help you. And thank me later if you ever do this. And it would surely keep your learners engaged, especially for the communication skills and management. But it's not restricted to that. My colleagues at those who are teaching chemical engineering here, they are successfully using it in some of their courses. So do look for these options available. And to sort of wind up giving tips on the useful tools, WhatsApp, the age-old, like the most underrated platform, which is primarily used for forwarding all kinds of rubbish, useless stuff, can actually be used like in a very nice way to enhance your teaching learning experience. So it is more agile, and it is obviously less costly. You and your students, mostly all of us, are there on WhatsApp. Create small groups, and then do give them assignments. Make sure that they communicate with each other. And the next day, you can always talk about, even if not on a regular, on a day-to-day basis, maybe once a week, you need to go back and find out what they have done, the small group. Sometimes what happens when it is a bigger class, they feel lost, and then they don't know what to do, and then you don't pay attention to all of them. So when you have blended learning, you create a WhatsApp group and then assign small assignments, breaking them into small groups, and then they would communicate with each other. They would get back to you with solutions. So these are a couple of things or a couple of tips that you should use when you are talking about the blending learning. Okay, I think this is the last one. So this is what would I would say I've already discussed. So these are the futuristic teaching processes. I got a lot of insights of this slide from an article in Harvard Business Review, HBR, if some of you are referring to. So the author would say that ensuring active participation of students is always challenging, whether it is traditional or online or blending. It remains a challenge for all of us. But don't consider it as a daunting challenge. Don't be frightened. Make sure you use your creativity in the best possible way to sort of to address this issue or this challenge. So what are a few suggestions here? Some of like this article in HBR. There's an interesting suggestion. I should have written it over here. Is that you need to refer back to, so do something like post a question of the day. Every day you have a quirky, fun question related to what you teach, and then put it there. Next day when the students come back to the class, make sure they talk about it. Believe me, not everyone will talk, but then at least some of them they will. So do make sure that they do discuss what you asked the other day, like the previous day. So it's going to be the question of the day. And also ask them one-word question or true or false question at the beginning of the class, even if it's online now or later when you adapt the blended learning approach. Grading descriptive answers, it's going to be very difficult. I don't expect colleagues to do that all the time. So keep the descriptive questions for the formal exams, but at least for the regular day-to-day basis, you can always use something like a one-word question or true or false, so that you can keep the students engaged. Online polls I have already discussed. Small group thing I have already discussed. How you can use Moodle, this kind of Kahoot and then Menti, and then go back to WhatsApp all the time and create small groups and give them assignments so they would come back and then do it. So also the shared documents, Google Doc. Google Doc is also another interesting way. I have PhD scholars now, 3 PhD scholars, and we all work on the Google documents, because whatever, when you guide students, they have to write a lot. So every time they would send me something and I would take a printout, I would read and send it back. That's not possible. So use the shared document. You can do that also with your regular classes, not only the PhD scholars. For the regular classes also, you just share a Google Doc and then ask them to update whatever they are writing. If it is a writing centric course, if it is a simulation, critical thinking, creative thinking kind of a course, problem solving ones, you can give the simulations also to work on the Google shared documents. That's not a problem. It's doable, even if it's not that comfortable, but it's doable. And yeah, that's what I mentioned. So do give simulations, which will help the learners to enhance the problem solving and then the critical thinking skills. Why I say problem solving? Because the tech and then the engineering colleagues, you definitely have to, like, you must have been facing issues related to problem solving skills of the students, because you don't know how much of like whatever you taught, whether it reached to the learners in the right way or not. That's a problem for you all the time. And it's just not science and technology, for all kinds of subjects that we deal with. So the critical thinking and then the problem solving skills should be measured, and it should be taken care of by deploying methods through the blended learning, where you can deploy the futuristic teaching techniques or the futuristic teaching tools. Okay, now very quickly, I'll just wind up with this. How and why social interaction should be important. One is, we, as we mentioned, think about a little, and we are talking about the university education. That's fine. So university education online method is okay, and we are running it quite successfully, I must say. But think about the pre-university level. So the ones who are going to come to the university would go through the school, right? And it's a grassroots level where we have to empower the children, because they are the ones who are going to be the bright students in a university. If the foundation is weak, if the grounding is weak, then obviously it's not possible for us to have a bright scholar in an IIT or in a central university or in an engineering college. Wherever you are going, any kind of institute or engineering you're talking about, be it state governed, be it autonomous, be it centrally governed, or it could be, what do we call it? We call it, there are some other terms also, PPP mode. So there are multiple engineering institutes we have in the country, and the students who come here, they go through the school, and the school education should be grounding enough, should be strong enough, so that they can grow into a successful, or they can grow into a bright university scholar. So even if you are deploying the blended learning process, you should ensure that a couple of must nots. What you should follow, I have already discussed. But what you must not do, or what you should always avoid, is that make sure your teaching method is not mechanically driven. Don't teach just for the heck of teaching. A lot of us we do that, and there are a lot of reasons for it. I don't blame only the faculty. Sometimes the classroom situation is so terrible that you feel like, oh, let me finish this class and I'll go. And I've been through this experience a lot. So even if it will be mechanically driven, you being a teacher, try to be creative enough, and then make sure you do your work with utmost passion and dedication. So zeal is something that we all should have. If you have chosen this career, then you must stick to it. You should do your work with utmost passion. So don't be just a mechanical teacher. Mechanical, when I say, I'm not talking about mechanical engineering. I'm talking about just for the heck of teaching, when you are teaching something. And don't make anyone socially alienated. The ones who have better access to technology very likely are going to get more privileges, but that doesn't mean that you would exclude the ones who do not have. Maybe you should give them more time, talk to them in person, and find out where do they lag, and then if you could extend some bit of help, that would be really nice. Don't exclude the poor and marginalized. They are the ones who are going to be affected the most through the online, because not everyone has a smartphone, not everyone has a laptop or a computer or access to internet. So do look for options how you can help the poor and marginalized in your own ways, and don't make them deprived the joy of socializing. So regular talk or a regular session, I would have met with all of you there. That would have been so nice to talk to you in person, to know you in person. But given the current situation, that's not possible. So the online option has given us an opportunity, but that doesn't mean that we would deprive ourselves from the joy of socializing. We are humans, we are the social animals. So that's the reason, as a teacher, you must not deprive anyone from that. And obviously, the last point I would like to highlight here, online education is not an alternative. You should always look for the blended learning, which is complementary kind of thing. But make sure that you have the traditional and the conventional approach intact to it. So bring the things from both the worlds. Get good things from the online method, good things from the traditional method, put it together, make it a blend, and that's what we call blended learning. So social interaction is going to be a primary factor here. So I ended with this. Thank you for paying attention. This is the last quote. The mediocre teacher tells, a good teacher explains, a superior teacher demonstrates, and a great teacher inspires. I hope all of us, we are looking forward to become great teachers so that we can inspire our fellow learners, right? So thank you. Thank you for paying attention. Most welcome to pose questions.
Thank you much for inspiring us, and such a wonderful session we have, and we are privileged to have such words with you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite all the participants to have their doubts, to clarify their doubts. They can raise their questions. Is anybody who wish to ask the questions to ma'am? They are free, they are open to ask.
Yeah, so I would love to have some discussions.
Yes.
No question? Okay. All right.
Excuse me, sorry. I have one query.
Yeah, please go ahead. I don't know who is speaking.
Yeah, ma'am, Priyanka Kumari, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm from NIFT Bhubaneswar, National Institute
hi.
of Fashion Technology.
Oh,
Ma'am, I just wanted to know. Yes, ma'am. that how to motivate the student, or how to sustain the interest of the student when it is more about practice based or hands-on work related to
Yeah.
the topic.
All right. So this would always remain a challenge. The experience, the experiment centric, and then the hands-on centric. If you want to create something physically, then it's going to be a problem. I agree. So especially when you are coming from NIFT, you need to design things, right? And then
Yes, ma'am.
you have to show it, and it has to be a physical
Yeah.
product.
Yeah,
So
lot of demonstration.
yeah, that would it would involve a lot of demonstration. But until we come back to normalcy, where we can have a blended learning approach, as of now, is it possible for you to ask the students to create something and to demonstrate it through a video, just like I mentioned, the blended learning method? Upload the videos. So you upload the video how you work on a particular product, and then ask the students to follow it, and make sure that you have step-by-step instructions clearly given to them, and then how feasible it is for them to come up with a similar set of product that you have designed. So the only if you ask me as of now what is the solution, I would request you to go back to the video method. You show it to them, so make sure they learn it by how you are showing it to them. So upload the video and then let them follow, and let them show you back. Let them get back to you with the product that they have designed. Is it possible for the moment?
Yes, ma'am. Right now we are doing this, but somehow always there is a feel in the student that we are missing that experiential learning which we used to have in our workshop.
Yeah,
So
right. So
somewhere
that's what the
how
social
to-
interaction I talked about. Yeah, that will always remain a challenge unless we are open for the regular methods. And this one you were talking about from the fashion technology perspective. You think about the heavy experiments that our students conduct at IIT, where they physically need to mix and match things. They have to work on the chemistry lab.
Yeah.
They have to work on the mechanical lab. So that aspect is going to be ignored anyway. So that I'm not saying that that's the reason why I said this is not an alternative. Okay, so online method is not an alternative. Why focus on blended learning? When I say blended learning, remember I'm talking about bringing good things from both the worlds. So once you have an opportunity to show them in person, you also give them a video demonstration. Those who did not attend those who could not understand what you taught in the class or in the laboratory or in the workshop, maybe by going through the video they can watch it at their own comfortable time, so they would pay more attention, right? So this is a problem which will remain always. So that's the reason why we must look for the blended learning technique. So what you showed may not be easily comprehensible to them at one go, but if they have a video available, they can watch it over and over, right? And they
Right,
can
ma'am.
follow all the steps and they can come back. So that is what I would advocate. It's not purely online, it's not purely traditional method,
Thank you.
rather a blend of both the worlds. So that would give you the best experience. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Anyone else who
Okay.
wish to ask? Do we have more queries?
Do we have a chat box? Generally people are more comfortable writing in the chat. Did we have any question? I don't see the chat box actually.
No, no, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. We have one question.
Okay.
Should blended teaching be teacher-centric or student-centric?
Yeah. So it will always be student centric, as I told you. It does give a lot of flexibility to the teacher. I would also highlight that, but it is more beneficial for the student, because you remember I did mention tailor made experiences, or the tailor made teaching process. Not everyone learns following the same method. I told you some people are they learn through visual images, some people learn through the auditory things, some people learn through the regular teaching learning method. So when you have a blended learning method, it's actually more work for the teacher. Even if it is flexible, it does give flexibility, but it's actually in the benefit of the learners. So it's like we have something for everyone. If you are a visual learner, we have the video for you. If you like to learn from the teacher in person, we have the regular classroom, because we are putting both the things together, right? And we are also sharing the reading references. If you are a more reader-centric learner, reading-centric learner, that means you learn by reading, you learn by doing, you learn by watching. So and we are sharing the teachings materials, we are sharing the videos, and we are also talking in the class. So that means even if it's more work for us, that means we are actually enabling everyone to get something from our teaching, from our courses. So for sure it is in the benefit of the learners. So I would call it a learner centric teaching method, which gives, maybe I'll put it in this way, learner centric teaching method, which gives more flexibility to the faculty or to the instructor. So in both the cases, it is learning centric, because we have to address the need of the learners. But in case of blended learning, it is a learning centric process with more flexibility, more freedom, more empowerment for the teachers, because they can deploy more creative tools to make their teaching more interesting. Yeah, that's my response. Thank you.
Do we have some more sessions? Yes. Do we have some more questions? No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's
Thank you once again, ma'am. Yes. Somebody wants to ask something. Yes, Priyanka Kumari, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I just wanted to know your experience. Like when we are giving lots of information to student, so is it like that we are making them more dependent upon us? Like when we have our conventional classes, so in traditional system, they used to do lot of in-depth research. So is it like that they are little bit becoming more dependent upon us rather than doing research on their own?
Okay. So I would have two different answers for this. It depends what kind of a classroom that you are dealing with. When you say students are more dependent, that means you are spoon feeding them, but there is no information, say, in case of teaching, because the world, like whatever subject, let's say you are dealing with a group of undergraduates, they conventionally, they are not much into reading if you compare them with a PhD scholar. So your question will have two different groups. Giving more information to the undergrads, I think it will be on their benefit. It will be beneficial for them. My personal experience is that they don't search more articles, they don't read more. If I give them, or like if I share more, considering you asked me my personal experience, that's what I'm sharing. To my undergrads, I do share a lot of reading references, because I know hardly do they look for papers, the concept that I'm dealing with. But I don't do that with my PhD scholars. My PhD scholars, they're also learners, right? But I expect them to come up with their own reading references. They would tell me, look, I'm working on this problem in my thesis, and these are the reading references that I have identified, and I think this will help me to fine tune my thesis more, like to fine tune my thesis better. So I deploy two different strategies to address the concerns of two different groups of students that I have. For my undergrads, I do give them a lot of information, and it's up to them to choose something and to reject something. Maybe they don't like something, they won't read it. But for me, these are all relevant to them. But for my PhD scholars, I expect them to come up with their own reading. So it depends which group of students you are talking about. I change my strategy depending on the kind of students that I'm dealing with. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again for spending time with us and such a wonderful session. Thank you once again, ma'am.
Okay, it's my pleasure, and thank you for inviting and then giving me an opportunity to be with all of you, though in a virtual medium. Thanks. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Thank you once again from all of us here. Thank you.
Yeah.
With this, I wind up the session of day 3, session 1, and will resume with session 2 soon, within 5 to 10 minutes.